Hey friends, welcome to the Publish, Promote, Profit podcast. I'm Rob Kosberg, and every week I show you how to use a best-selling book to grow your income and your impact. And if you're interested in having your own best-selling book, I recorded a short video explaining our trademark process at beginmybook.com. All right, hey everybody, Rob here for our BSPU training, and I have something I think a little bit different, and for many of you I think it'll be very, very interesting. I've not talked very specifically about these things before, and that's primarily because most of what I talk about is directly related to using your book, right, and growing your business with a book. But this is a little bit related and unrelated in that for those of you that are speakers, and many authors, in fact, most authors, I'd say, are either speakers or want to be. So for those of you that are or want to be speakers and do your own events, then the things that I'm going to share with you today could be revelatory and really, really powerful. They have the things that I'm going to share with you today for what I call the free event model have meant over $1 million in revenue to bestseller publishing just last year. It's something that my buddy Kevin Hutto and I batted around and discovered a couple of years ago, and I implemented in bestseller publishing. And many of you, in fact, have become my clients because you came to one of these free type events, especially in the last 2 years. But what we've done recently is we've begun teaching this and training some people on it, and even helping them set up their advertising and the event and the pitch itself, and have seen just some incredible results. So let me dive right in. Again, this is primarily for those of you who are coaches, consultants, brick and mortar business owners. I'm going to share with you a bunch of different examples of clients that have been using this, but it's using a small to mid-size event that is a free event that you're bringing people to, with you being the star of the show, and in essence, teaching your best stuff and then making an offer for a high ticket purchase at the end of 2 days. This is a 2-day event model. Now we're going to test 1 day as well, but I'm going to lay out for you what is actually working and has worked in every single scenario that we have tested it in. So that's out of over a dozen different client examples and probably 30 to 40 different events that have each produced a minimum of 10 times return on investment up to over 30 times return on investment. And in fact, my first one, the very first one I ever did, was $10,000 spent and $240,000 returned to me. And that's all within about a 5-week period. So anyway, the free event model, let me give you a little bit of background and let me explain about it, and then kind of go into the details of the free event model itself. Anybody that has ever tried to do your own event, you know that it has, especially over the past few years, become increasingly difficult to sell tickets to an event, even if the tickets are as cheap as $97. In the beginning, 4 or 5 years ago, I was running small live events, and I would sell a $97 ticket to come to that 2-day event, which is next to nothing, right? Me teaching for 2 solid days for $97, I mean, come on. But what that $97 did is commit somebody to coming. So we would use social media, Facebook advertising, etc., to sell these $97 tickets to these small to mid-size events. And it worked fine right up until the time it stopped working. And it stopped working when it began costing $400, $500, $600 to sell one $97 ticket. So the metrics no longer worked. So these events were incredibly profitable for us. So I was talking to a good buddy of mine, some of you know, one of my partners in another business venture, and a buddy of mine for over 20 years. We play golf together every single week. We go away on trips together. Our wives are good friends, etc. And that's Kevin Hutto. Kevin is the best in the business when it comes to Facebook advertising and Facebook traffic, especially for coaches, consultants, brick and mortar business owners, etc. And so Kevin and I were batting around this problem, and I don't remember which one of us said it, but I began talking about other models that are working and have been working for decades in this event space. And those models are the real estate model, and more recently, the last 5 or 10 years, Amazon. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically in every city around the country at one time or another, there'll be a real estate show that comes into town. They'll do 6 to 10 preview events that are about 2 hours long. Those 2-hour preview events sell you a ticket to a 2 or 3 day workshop. The ticket costs between $297 and $997. And then they bring you to that 2 or 3 day workshop to sell you the high ticket thing, which is $20,000 or $30,000, and usually it's some kind of boot camp or some type of long-term coaching program. This has been going on for a long time. There's nothing new here. This has been working and continues to work to this day. I have a buddy of mine in Australia who did $7 million in the month of February just using this model in real estate and Amazon. It's a long story about who he is. He's not a guru himself. He's actually the guy behind gurus, but needless to say, it is a model that is still working really well. So what I didn't like about the model, and what Kevin and I discussed, was, is there a way that we could fast track our results? Like, is there a way that we could completely avoid this preview event that then sells a ticket, which is really like a webinar, and then leads to the actual thing that you want to get them to, which is the 2-day event or 3-day event? So my thinking was, why don't we just cut out the preview event? Let's run traffic on Facebook, Instagram, etc., to this offer for a free event, something I've done in the past, and then we'll just see how many people actually show up for this free event, knowing that if 100 people register, probably only 10 or 15 max are going to come because people aren't committed. Here's what my thinking was, though, in this. My thinking was, if I could get in front of people for 2 full days that were already interested in my thing, and my thing being publishing, right? My thing being teaching, publish, promote, profit, teaching what we do at Bestseller Publishing. If they were already interested in writing a book, or they had a book and they want to make it successful, and they would spend 2 full days with me where I'm teaching them, giving them my very, very best stuff, and then making a soft offer for our high ticket services, then my thinking was, I'm going to be able to bring on a good number of those people as clients into my business. And those of you who've been to those events, you know that that's true. So about 2 years ago, I tested this. And these are my numbers from 2 years ago in the free event model. We drove traffic on Facebook and spent about $10,000 on Facebook traffic, getting people's names, email address, and telephone numbers. And we registered about 700 people, 700 names, email address, and telephone numbers for a free ticket to a local event. This was not a national event. This was not a state of California event. This was a Los Angeles, California local event, and we only focused on local people, which was another kind of trick when it comes to Facebook marketing and advertising. I won't get into the details of that. That's something that maybe if we talk about this again, Kevin can share with you. Anyway, so for 10 grand out of my pocket, I registered 700 people. Now, on that initial page where they're giving me their name, their email, and their telephone number, they're immediately told that they're going to get a free ticket to this 2 full day event. However, as soon as they put that information, they go to the first upsell, or only upsell, if you will, which is upselling people into one of 2 VIP packages. Now, we've changed this, but I'm giving you the statistics from the first day. The first VIP offer was for $97. The second was for $397. And so we had 23 people take one of those 2 packages. Most people took the $97 package, but I believe it was 4 people that took the $397 package, and it brought in about $3,000 in revenue immediately. So spent 10, got 700 registrations, and then of that 10,000 spent, 3,000 immediately came back to me. So my total outlay of expenditure was $7,000. By the way, if any of these numbers freak you out, don't worry about the numbers. Lop off 0 if you want. You can have a smaller event, but I wanted a certain number of people. Now, There was some risk involved because I had absolutely no idea how many people were going to show up. We now have a metric from running me. I've run, 10 of these events in the last 2 years. And we've had other clients do another 20 or 30 of these events in different markets. So we have some metrics around how many people we're expecting to show up. In our case, we had 70 attendees. 70 attendees came to the full 2-day event. Almost all of them stayed for the full 2 days, but some of them were just there on day 1, some of them just there on day 2, but almost all of them stayed for the full 2 days. I have a complete process that I teach on how to, in a very soft way, right? Not a rush to the back of the room, where you create this kind of mad rush and all that, but in a very soft kind of pitch where people are begging you for it rather than you pushing them to close. We brought on 15 new clients into either a $12,000 package or a $24,000 package. The total revenue was about $240,000 from that very first, what we call $1 Million Author Summit, free. I used to do them as paid. I totally switched to free. I told nobody about this. Kevin and I just kept it to ourselves and ran this model internally. But about a year or 8 months or so ago, the cat started to get out of the bag. I shared with a couple of people what we were doing here. One good friend and client, Shanda Sumter, I did her book, and you've probably heard me talk about Shanda in the past, decided to try to do this model for herself. She was the first person that began adopting it. And I actually taught this model to her entire mastermind because it was working so well for us. I taught it much like I'm teaching you now. Shanda's first event that she did returned almost a 30x ROI from what she spent, about 10 grand, and brought in over $300,000 in revenue and new sales in that 2-day event on day 2. She did it again with a much larger audience, almost 300 women in the room. She primarily focuses on women entrepreneurs, women coaches of some kind, and did, again, almost 30 times return on investment. I'm not going to give you the numbers, but let's just say that it was approaching $1 million from one free 2-day event. Since that time, we've helped other people to do this in the fitness space, in the business coaching space, in the PR and media space, which wasn't me. It was somebody else who does media and PR, but I actually said, geez, it worked. I'm going to roll out my own PR and media thing as well. But of course, you can only do so much. It's worked in multiple different kinds of coaching, whether it's life type coaching or business type coaching and consulting. It works in the medical field, as well as in, as I said, fitness, which includes both like fitness as well as weight loss, kind of 2 subcategories under the big category of fitness weight loss. And the events have ranged from 35 people in a room to almost, like I said, almost 300 was the biggest by far that's been done. And most of them have averaged 50 or 60 in a room, and all of them have reaped about 6 figures in revenue. So we've now discovered this is a model that really works. Just doesn't work with me. It just hasn't worked with publishing, which honestly is kind of a segment of a segment. I mean, we should have known from the beginning, if it's working for book publishing, then it's going to work for these bigger markets and bigger spaces as well. And we've discovered over last year it's worked like gangbusters. So I want to give you kind of the steps in the process. Obviously, I only have so much time to go over this. If you're interested in learning more, then I'm going to share with you, Kevin and I are actually rolling out a whole course on this and are actually going to take the first people through it ourselves, help them set up everything in the process to be successful. But let me give you the steps so that you can kind of determine if this is something you're interested in. Obviously, there needs to be some outlay of investment. Doesn't have to be $10,000, but it's going to be a few $1,000s in running Facebook traffic. There's going to be an outlay of expense for a venue, unless you already have a big venue space in your office or something. So there's going to be some pieces and some upfront expense that you're going to be required to put out to test this But if you follow these steps, it will work like gangbusters for you. So step number one is what we call the funnel setup and the overview. The first is to get the funnel set up so that when people come to you, they have the steps in place. Now, we use ClickFunnels, and we actually can share the funnel for those of you that are ClickFunnels users. But there are some pieces, and we have made some changes. We no longer offer a 97 and a 397 VIP. We have a better VIP offer that's actually a little cheaper, but allows more people to accept the VIP offer. And what we found is that the majority of the people that even have as little as $7 out of their pocket will 80 to 90% of those people will come. And really all that you're trying to do with the registrations is you're trying to get them there. So the first step is to have the funnel in place so that you're giving the benefits of the conference itself, of the material that you're going to be teaching. You want to give the benefits for them to come and invest 2 full days. By the way, one of the pieces, if you will, of the secret sauce of this is if they're willing to invest 2 full days with you, it doesn't matter if they spent $97 to be there or not. The 97 bucks is not the qualifier. The real qualifier is, are they willing to sit there with you for 2 full days? Because when they do, everything changes. For those of you who have spoken on stage, even as short as an hour, you know the kind of rapport that you can get with an audience and the kind of trust that's built. Well, imagine doing that for 2 full days. Doesn't matter if they spent $1 to come there or not. Obviously, people that can afford $1,000 or $2,000 for a ticket, they're very, very well qualified. But we're not doing that because we're not putting a big name in front of them. This is about you running a local event, even if you're completely unknown. You don't have to be a big name. You don't have to have any social following whatsoever because they're coming for the content. They're coming to learn your magic. So the first step is having all of that on the funnel and having the upsells in place so that you can get the name, the email, the telephone number, and begin the follow-up and get them into VIP. Step number 2 is getting the venue set up. You do want to have the right venue. I remember my staff was freaking out we had over 700 people registered, and we had a venue that sat 80 to 100 people. And they were freaking out. They were like, oh my gosh, Rob, I mean, how are we going to fit all these people? Because we actually had 250 of the 700 that we called, texted, and emailed and found out they said they were coming. Guess what? They still didn't come. We had 70 people there for a room of about 80 people. So you want to have the venue set up the right way. And also, you need to know with venues, they're going to do everything they can to extract cash from you. So you need to do it and set things up in the right way so that you're not, pouring out a bunch of cash that's unnecessary. So there are things that you want to have set up with the AV. There are things that you want to have set up with the actual room itself and the size of the room so that it's great and appropriate, but it's not more expensive than it needs to be. And all that needs to be set up in the first or second week, okay? So funnel, first week, second week, you want to have the venue and all of that taken care of. The next step, which is a big part, is the ad setup itself and the videos that need to be done. There are videos that need to be done that take some time. You want to craft really great videos. If you're a speaker, then you should have some great B-roll videos of you speaking, right? You on stage, the audience, all those things. You want to create this, this view of, even if they've never heard of you before, when they go to your ad, they see, wow, this is someone that does this. This is someone that's been teaching and training for a while. If you don't have that, then don't worry about it. But there are some ways that you can craft videos that will have the venue itself and other things in place that really give you the kind of credibility you need. The ads themselves are important because, as you might imagine, you can spend a lot of money on Facebook advertising and it not work well for you. So fortunately, we have tested and tweaked all of this significantly, so we know exactly what needs to be done with the ads set up themselves. But basically, we're running Facebook ads. We're running it in a local geography, and we're getting people to opt in, name, email address, and telephone number, which is really, really vital, for a free ticket to the event. Then we, of course, bump them up into the VIP offer. Next step from there is the follow-up and confirmation. There has to be a process to follow up and get people confirmed. We email people. We text people. We do follow-up telephone calls with people. We give them workbooks and content that they can download and begin to go over so they get excited about this. And by the way, the whole time frame for this whole thing is only about 5 weeks. So from the time you get the date set and begin to talk to the venue, you want to start your Facebook ads, and you only need to run it for about 4 weeks or so, and then have the event. So all of this stuff takes place over about a 4 to 5 week period from the beginning all the way to the event itself. Remember, it's a small event. You're not putting on an event for 1,000 people. Even the event that we did like this, that was 300 people, the whole thing was put on in 5 weeks. So follow-up confirmation is really important. Next step is to have your event ordered and set up so that it is creating content that is both very, very high value, high quality content where people are learning, but at the same time, you want to seed the offer that you're going to be making. So there are case studies and testimonials that you have to have. So you're going to be seeding the offer that you're going to make on day 2. Next step is to have that offer set up. We have a very, very orchestrated way to do the offer. Now, I've learned this from others and have put my own spin on it over the last several years. I've learned from people like Taki Moore and Russell Brunson and others who have taught me kind of their way to do it. I don't like to have this big rush to the back of the room like some people pitch to do. I prefer it to be more of a pull where people are pulling at me. People want what I have because of the way that I segment the offer. It is an entire orchestrated process. We've taught this process, and I've taught this process to others, and people have done it and replicated the same results. So it's definitely something that can be done. Then the last step, you're going to get a good number of sales right at the free event itself. But guess what? Another 30, 40, even 50% of your sales are going to come from after the event. So there's going to have to be event follow-up where people wanted to take action, but for one reason or another, they didn't. Maybe they needed to talk to a spouse. Maybe they needed to talk to a business partner. So you want to make sure that you have things in place so that they can be followed up with in a way that gets them to take action. When all of this is done, you're going to be looking at a 10x or more return on investment, even just from one event itself. Now, I know I've given a lot, and obviously there's a lot involved in this whole process. I want to answer any questions that you have, but here's the deal. It's really simple. For those of you that are interested in learning and kind of walking through with Kevin and myself all of this, then I just want to maybe do some Facebook chats with you. Maybe me, Kevin, and you do a little Facebook chat to kind of talk through it. This is going to be something that we're rolling out that honestly we think is going to be pretty big. We think it's going to be big because no one is doing anything like it. And since we know now it's been tested in the coaching space, it's been tested in the fitness space, it's been tested in the business space, and it's been tested in small niches like the book niche, then we know that it's going to work. But we want to make sure that what you have to offer and what it is that you're looking to do is something that's a fit for this. The fact is you're going to be like the person on stage for 2 days. And so you need to have some great content that you're going to be teaching over that 2-day period. You need to have something that's high ticket and high value that you can offer somebody so that that offer that you're making is like, oh, it's a no-brainer, right? It's an offer that they can't refuse because you're going to help them to install X, Y, and Z into their life, into their business, etc. Anything along the lines of coaching, anything along the lines of consulting, any type of business offer. Mine is a done-for-you offer. As you know, you're my clients. So this is something that any of you can do. As I said, there's going to be some upfront investment in this, right? You don't have to spend $10,000 on Facebook ads like we did right out of the gate, but you're probably not going to get a $240,000 result. But if you spend a few $1,000s and the venue itself cost $1,000 or $2,000, then you're not out a whole lot of money. It can't be the last dime, right? You're not out a whole lot of money in testing this. We've not seen this fail one time when people follow this process. So very simple. I'm shooting video, and obviously I'm doing this to my BSP clients. But if someone is interested, I'm going to have a link where we can just start a little chat together, and I can answer your questions, or a team member can answer your questions, and we can ask you some questions to see what it is that you have to offer, what it is that you would like to be doing, and if this would be something that might be a great fit for you. Okay, so check out the link, click it, let's have a little chat conversation and see if there's some kind of fit for us. Hey, thanks for listening in on the Publish, Promote, Profit podcast. If you enjoyed it, please take a minute and like and subscribe to the podcast, because every week I bring you either great guests or great teaching to help you to grow your income and your impact with a best-selling book. And if you're interested in having your own best-selling book, check out my short video which explains our trademark process at beginmybook.com.